Have you ever wondered where the term conman originated from? Let's take a leap back in time to the mid-19th century New York City. This is where we meet William Thompson, a man of charm, wit, and a knack for deception. Thompson was probably the first person to become widely known as a confidence man. This term was coined because of his unique method of swindling unsuspecting victims. His trick was both simple and ingenious. He would approach people on the streets, in bars, or at events, acting as if they were old acquaintances. With his friendly demeanor and convincing act, he managed to gain their trust. Once he established this rapport, he would ask, "Have you confidence in me to trust me with your watch until tomorrow?" Amazingly, this audacious trick worked more often than not. Thompson managed to repeat this scam on various individuals before the long arm of the law finally caught up with him. However, his legacy lived on. His method, dubbed the confidence trick, inspired a whole generation of swindlers and tricksters. One of these was a woman named Bertha Hayman. Bertha continued the tradition of confidence scams, but she added her own twist to the scheme. While locked up in jail, she managed to find more victims. Her plot was a bit more complicated than Thompson's. She would claim to have lost access to her enormous fortune and needed a bit of financial help to get it back. This is quite similar to today's 419 fraud or the Nigerian letter scam. So, the next time you hear the term conman, remember William Thompson and his audacious trick. His exploits as a confidence man led to the coining of the term conman, a swindler who can sweet-talk their way into your trust and your wallet. And thus, the term conman was born, paving the way for future swindlers. But who could imagine that an entire estate could be a scam? Picture this. The year is 1866, and a group of 28 swindlers hatch an audacious plot that would run for a staggering 70 years. Their mark? A fictional wealthy individual named Jacob Baker of Philadelphia. Their victims? An unsuspecting public, eager to stake a claim on a fortune. The swindlers, cunning and calculating, contacted people across America bearing the surname Baker. They claimed to represent the estate of the late Mr. Baker, who they said had passed away, leaving no heirs to his vast wealth. The proposition was simple yet enticing. For a small fee, anyone named Baker could stake a claim to a portion of the estate. Imagine the allure of such a proposition, a chance to inherit a fortune, all because of a shared surname. It was a tempting offer, one that approximately 3,000 people couldn't resist. These hopeful individuals responded to the mail, handing over their hard-earned money in the hopes of a substantial return. In total, the swindlers managed to amass nearly $3 million. However, as with most scams, the Baker estate plot couldn't last forever. Suspicions arose, investigations were launched, and the truth was finally uncovered. The estate was a sham, the wealthy Jacob Baker a mere phantom, and the promise of inheritance nothing more than a cruel hoax. The swindlers were apprehended, their scheme laid bare for all to see. They were charged and found guilty in a court of law. Their 70-year reign of deceit finally brought to an end. The Baker estate scam serves as a stark reminder of the audacious lengths that fraudsters will go to ensnare their victims. It was a plot that manipulated the hopes and dreams of thousands, leaving a trail of financial devastation in its wake. The Baker estate scam, an audacious plot that fooled thousands, was finally brought to an end. But its legacy lives on, a chilling testament to the cunning and deceit of those who operate in the shadows of society. Ever heard of a Ponzi scheme? It's named after a real person, you know. This scamming technique owes its name to an Italian immigrant, Charles Ponzi, who turned to a life of crime after landing in Boston in 1903 with barely $2.50 to his name. Ponzi's initial days in America weren't exactly law-abiding. From forging checks to aiding illegal immigrants, he dabbled in various criminal activities, which eventually landed him a 5-year stint in prison. But the real game-changer came in 1920, when Ponzi discovered a rather ingenious opportunity to make money through international postal reply coupons. These coupons, each worth 5 cents, were purchased in Spain at a fixed exchange rate and could be redeemed back in the US for a nickel. The dwindling value of the peso presented a lucrative opportunity for Ponzi. He recruited individuals from economically weaker European countries to send him these coupons, which he then sold in the US for a profit. However, Ponzi wasn't content with merely tricking the government. He had grander plans. He began to recruit ordinary people, promising them returns on their investments ranging from 50 to 100%. Ponzi's enticing claims attracted thousands of people who invested their hard-earned money in his scheme. Ponzi cleverly used the incoming cash from new investors to pay off the old ones. Many of these investors, seeing their returns, reinvested their money, further fueling Ponzi's scheme. But as they say, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. The astronomical returns promised by Ponzi began to draw suspicion. An investigation by the Boston Post revealed Ponzi's business for what it truly was, a monumental scam. It was estimated that Ponzi had swindled up to $20 million from his investors, a discovery that earned him another prison sentence and eventual deportation back to Italy. Charles Ponzi's scheme ended up costing investors millions, and his name lives on in infamy. His legacy? A cautionary tale that continues to remind us of the perils of too-good-to-be-true investment opportunities. But scams didn't end with Ponzi. They've evolved, just like everything else. The cunning art of deception has kept pace with the technological advancements of our era. Today's fraudsters, just like their predecessors, exploit human trust and vulnerability, but they do so with an array of sophisticated tools and methods that Charles Ponzi himself could never have imagined. Consider the infamous Nigerian prince email scam, a modern take on the age-old confidence trick. It involves an email from a so-called Nigerian prince who claims to have a substantial fortune but needs your help to secure it. This scam, also known as the 419 fraud, is a descendant of Bertha Hayman's con, in which she claimed to have lost access to her enormous fortune and needed a bit of financial help to get it back. The scammer promises a hefty reward for your assistance, but of course, you must first send them money or share your bank details. Then there's the lottery scam, where you receive a message saying you've won a huge prize, but first, you must pay a fee or provide personal information to claim it. This scam is a modern twist on the Baker estate scam, where swindlers promised people a share in a non-existent estate in exchange for a small fee. And let's not forget phishing scams, where fraudsters masquerade as reputable companies to trick you into sharing sensitive information. This is a digital version of William Thompson's confidence trick, where he exploited the trust of his victims by pretending to be someone they knew. Lastly, there's the pyramid scheme, a direct descendant of Charles Ponzi's namesake scam. These schemes promise high returns for investing money or recruiting others to join the scheme. However, just like Ponzi's scheme, they are unsustainable and inevitably collapse, leaving those at the bottom of the pyramid with significant losses. Scams have come a long way since the days of William Thompson and Charles Ponzi, but their essence remains the same. The tools and methods may have changed, but the underlying principle is still the exploitation of trust and the promise of easy money. So stay vigilant, because as the saying goes, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So, how can you protect yourself from falling victim to these scams? The first line of defense is a healthy dose of skepticism. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Remember the old adage, there's no such thing as a free lunch. This is especially true when it comes to offers that promise high returns with little or no risk. These are hallmarks of scams like the ones Charles Ponzi and others have perpetrated over the years. Next, do your own research. Don't rely solely on the information provided by the person or entity making the offer. Look for independent sources of information. This could be as simple as doing a Google search or as complex as hiring a private investigator. Whatever the case, it's essential to verify the legitimacy of the offer before parting with your hard-earned money. Be wary of pressure tactics. Scammers often create a sense of urgency to get you to act without thinking. They'll tell you that the offer is only available for a limited time, or that there are only a few spots left. Don't let them rush you into making a decision. Also, be cautious about sharing personal information. Scammers often use this information to steal your identity or drain your bank account. Never give out your social security number, bank account details, or other sensitive information unless you're sure you're dealing with a legitimate entity. Lastly, remember that scams often prey on our emotions. They can make us feel excited, afraid, or even guilty. It's important to step back and think logically about the situation. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. In conclusion, protecting yourself from scams requires a combination of skepticism, research caution, and emotional control. It's not always easy, but it's definitely worth the effort. In a world full of scams, the best defense is knowledge and vigilance.